You are listening to Vocabulary Builder from Perfect English with Danny. Learn new words every day. Welcome to a new episode of Vocabulary Builder from Perfect English with Danny. This week, I've changed a couple of things. We're going to start talking about a theme every week. I think when all the words we're learning in 1 week are related to each other or related to one topic, they will be a lot easier to remember and to use in the future. And there's a second change. I'm going to have Ben and Joe help me out. Joe is going to be the one who's asking all the questions. We're going to discuss the words together, and we will use the help of Ben to translate the words into 5 different languages. And that's not all. Although we're only going to include 5 languages in the episode, I'm including the translation of the 4 words we're going to learn every day into 62 languages that you can find in the description of the episode. I've chosen these 5 languages because I'm a little bit familiar with the way they're pronounced. For other languages, it might be a little bit difficult for me to pronounce. And now, without further ado, let's start with today's episode and the words we're going to learn. But first, let me introduce you to the topic of this week. This week, we're going to talk about adjectives that are used to describe people's personalities. They're also called character traits. Personality adjectives, whatever you want to call them, these words are very important to learn. So, sorry about this long introduction, but since we have a new thing going on with Vocabulary Builder, I just wanted to make things clear. So, the words we're going to learn today are reliable, optimistic, introverted, and sensible. All these words are adjectives, and they can be used to describe people's personalities. Now, let's start with the first word, reliable. But first, let me introduce Joe, who's going to help me out in this episode and in the episodes to come. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Danny. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
No, my friend, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for being here. So, Joe, how do you feel about this week's theme?
Well, I think it's very important to learn these words because I have this problem. A lot of the times I want to say something, and especially when I want to describe somebody, and I have all the ideas in my mind, but I don't have the exact word to use. So I just go round and talk a lot, but I don't actually use one word that can sum up everything I'm trying to say.
No problem. That's what we're trying to do here. So, shall we start with the first word, reliable?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so reliable, let's first check the spelling of the word. It's R-E-L-I-A-B-L-E, reliable. Now, reliable is a word we use to talk about people or things that can be trusted to work well or to behave in the way that you want them to. So that is the word reliable. Have you ever used the word reliable, Joe?
Well, I'm not sure, but maybe I used it before. Can you give me an example so I can make sure if I understand it well or not?
Yeah, sure. We can say, for example, it's strange John isn't here. He's usually so reliable.
So, does that mean that he's always on time?
Well, not exactly. When we want to say that somebody is always on time, we use the word punctual, which is related to reliable in a way, but reliable is not only about time. It is about knowing that this person is going to do what he said he was going to do. So if you say you are going to do something, and I know you're going to do it because I trust you, and because you have proven that you are a person that can be trusted, and you work well, you behave in the way people expect you to behave. Especially we're talking about promises here.
So it is like when I had my apartment painted last month. The painter was reliable. He told me he would finish in a week, and it took him less than a week to finish. He came exactly when he told me he was going to come, and he finished even before. So I can say that he is reliable.
Of course you can. And this is exactly what it means, that this person is reliable. So because this person is reliable, if anybody asks you about a good painter, a reliable painter, you're going to recommend him, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So it is not only about time. It is about people staying true to their word, and when they promise something, they keep their promises and they do exactly what they tell you they're going to do. You can trust them.
That's exactly what it means. So again, reliable is an adjective we use to describe people or things that can be trusted to work well or behave in the way you want them to. Do we have any problems about this word, Joe, or can we move on?
No, I guess I understand it very well.
Very good. But before we move on, we're going to use the help of our friend Ben with a translation of this word into 5 different languages. We're going to check the translation of reliable in French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Arabic. So, Ben, how are you today?
I'm fine, Danny. Thank you.
So, our word is reliable.
Reliable in French is fiable, and in Spanish is fidedigno. In Italian, it's affidabile. In Portuguese, it's confiável, and in Arabic is mawthuqun bihi. And as Danny said, you can find the translations for the other 62 languages in the description of the episode. We just chose those 5 languages because they're easy to pronounce, for us at least.
Thank you, Ben. So these were the translations of the word reliable. Now let's move on to the next word, which is optimistic. Do you know what we use optimistic for, Joe?
Well, I'm not so sure about it, but is it about a person who is happy all the time or who's smiling all the time? A person who doesn't worry about the future?
Well, you're pretty close, but we have to be a little bit specific about this word. First, the word is spelled optimistic, optimistic. An optimistic person is a person who is hopeful about the future or the success of something in particular. So, when you say, for example, I'm pretty optimistic about our chances of winning here today, you have a good feeling, you have a positive feeling that this thing will work, this thing will be a success. Now, when you say optimistic about a person in general, that means this person always thinks that good things are going to happen in the future. This person is always hopeful about the future, a positive person in general.
Oh, that's right. I have a friend who's actually the opposite, who's definitely not optimistic. This person always says that negative things and bad things are going to happen in the future. Even when we have great chances, he never seems to smile at anything and he never seems to hope for anything good in the future. But I think we can't call him disoptimistic or unoptimistic, right? Do we have a word for that?
Yeah, actually, if the person is the opposite of optimistic, we call him pessimistic. We don't have unoptimistic or disoptimistic.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So optimistic for the person who always sees the bright side and who's always hopeful about the future. And the person who's always negative and thinks bad things are going to happen, we call him pessimistic, right?
That's right. All right. So now let's move to our friend Ben and get the translations of this word in different languages.
Okay, so optimistic is optimiste in French, optimista in Spanish, ottimista in Italian, ottimista in Portuguese, and mutafa'il in Arabic. So you can see the word is pretty much the same in Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese, and English.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, sometimes when you learn one word in one of those languages, it is very easy to learn the words in other languages. And sometimes because you know words in English, you get to understand a lot of the things being said in these different languages because the words are pretty much similar.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for translating our second word for today. And now let's move to our third word, introverted. It is spelled introverted. Introverted. Well, Joe, any thoughts about the word?
Well, to be honest, I've never heard of this word before. Actually, maybe I've heard it before, but I never understood what it meant.
Introverted is an adjective that describes people who are quiet and shy and find it difficult to talk to other people.
So is it just to say that this person is shy? I know shy.
Well, not exactly shy. It is pretty much shy. Introverted people are usually shy, as we said. But shy people may be sociable at the same time. They may want to be with people, but they're shy. But they are with people. They like being with people. But for introverted people, they actually don't like to be with people. They like to be on their own most of the time. So it is a little bit different than just saying this person is shy.
Oh, I understand. But can you give me an example so that I can understand better?
Sure. We can say the young girl, once so lively, became introverted and developed a nervous stammer.
Oh, so here you mean that this girl was lively, maybe something happened to her, then she became introverted, she was always on her own, she didn't want to talk to people.
Yeah, you can say that. And I'm not saying that introverted is a problem. It is not. A lot of genius people are introverted. It is not a problem unless this person is kind of struggling to be with other people, but he or she just can't do it and they prefer to be on their own because they're kind of afraid of being with people.
Oh, I see.
So that was our third word for today, introverted. So Ben, can you help us out with the translations?
Of course. Introverted is introverti in French, introverso in Italian, introvertido in Spanish, and introvertido in Portuguese, and intiwai in Arabic.
Thank you, Ben. Again, the word is very similar in those different languages. Before we move to our next word for today, I just want to tell you that the opposite of that word is not troverted. Because some people think because we start with in, so that is the opposite. Because we start with in, so that is the opposite. So troverted is the opposite of introverted. Actually, it's not. Introverted is the opposite of extroverted. Extroverted is just the opposite. People who are not quiet at all. It doesn't mean that they're noisy, but people who are lively, who like to be with people, who are outgoing, they like to go out, they like to meet new people. These people, we call them extroverted, not troverted. So, saying that, let's move to our last word for today, sensible. S-E-N-S-I-B-L-E. Sensible. Joe, what do you think? Do you know sensible?
Yeah, this is a word I know for sure.
So, what do you think it means?
Sensible is about people who, for example, cry when they see an emotional scene in a movie. Or people who can feel what other people feel or something like that.
Well, that is actually a common mistake about sensible.
Really? I thought that was the meaning of sensible. I was using it all the time like that and...
Well, the problem about sensible is that in other languages, as we're going to see with Ben in a minute, sensible has the meaning you're just talking about. But in English, sensible is different. Sensible in English is different from sensitive. Now, the word sensible, we can use it with people, with actions, with decisions. And these things or these people are good because they are based on reason rather than emotions. So sensible here means reasonable. It doesn't mean sensitive. It's the exact opposite of sensitive. Now, sensitive is all about emotions, and people who are sensitive to other people's needs or problems, they show understanding and awareness of them. And sensitive is definitely not a negative word. It's a very positive word, but it's a different word. It's talking about people who understand other people's problems, needs, feelings. And yes, sometimes it may be that they cry when they see something emotional, not because they're weak, as some people may think. Sensitive people are weak. No, definitely not. Because these people can connect, can relate to other people's feelings. They are aware of how other people feel. But that is, again, sensitive. Sensible is the opposite. Sensible people behave in a sensible way, in a reasonable way, practical way, rational way. Their decisions, the things they do are always based on reasons rather than emotions. So that is the word sensible.
Oh, I guess I understand it now. It's easy to understand, but I was definitely using it instead of sensitive. I mean, I understand sensitive, but I thought sensible and sensitive are synonyms.
No, actually they're not.
Okay, that's something new for me.
Very good. Let's see how we can use it in context. We can say people are far more sensible about what and how much they drink these days. Well, hopefully this sentence is true, that people think about it, they behave in a sensible way when it comes to drinking. So let's move to Ben and let's see about the translation of sensible in different languages.
Well, thank you, Danny. It's quite right what you said about sensible and sensitive, and I can see why it is so confusing to many people, because the word sensitive translates literally sensible in French, sensibile in Italian, sensível in Portuguese, and sensible in Spanish. So you see, the word in the different languages is pretty much like sensible. So that is why many people make the mistake of confusing sensitive and sensible. But when it comes to sensible in English, the translation in other languages is different. In French, sensible is raisonnable. In Spanish, is sensato. In Italian, it's giudizioso. And it is the same in Portuguese, sensato. And in Arabic, it means ma'qul if we're talking about a thing, and aqlani if we're talking about a person. And that's all.
Thank you very much, Ben, for your help with the translations of these words in different languages. And thank you, Joe, for all your good questions and insight about these words. And thanks everybody for listening to another episode from Perfect English with Danny. This is a new episode, a different kind of episode about the vocabulary builder we've been doing for a while now. I hope you like the additions that we have in our episode. I hope that makes it relatable to you. And if you have any suggestions, if you like this new way we're doing for the vocabulary builder, please, you can leave us a comment and tell us what you think. And don't forget, in the description of the episode, you will find the translation into 62 different languages. So I am not being prejudiced. I'm not just translating into those 5 languages and that's it. But the problem is that the other languages are difficult for us to pronounce. So we chose the languages that we can actually pronounce, at least reasonably well. So this is your host, Danny. And on behalf of Ben and Joe, I say thank you very much for listening to another episode. I will see you in the next episode.